All right. You want to just kick off, or you want to have a chat first? Or
No, let's just do it.
What are we? Number 4.
No, 5.
Oh, okay.
How are you, mate?
I'm good, thanks. I'm lost.
I know.
We're screaming along.
We're both quite busy at the moment.
Yeah.
Seany, are you allowed to talk about it in public?
I guess. Kind of. Let's leave it for now.
Well,
Let's focus on the podcast.
Okay, well, Seany's gotten a very large order for a customer he's very happy
Yes.
about that he's chewing through at the moment.
Chewing
And
through.
I'm 2 weeks out from Supanova, Sydney,
That's right.
which is the biggest con of the year. So I'm madly doing leather work and finishing sabres.
And we're putting things together for you too.
Sorry?
We're putting stuff together.
Yeah.
for
So
you.
you've done our stickers, and we're topping up our T-shirts, and we had patches arrive last week. We've
Beautiful
got new
too.
challenge coins arriving. Busy, lots going on. It's going to be a fun con too.
Yep.
Because today's podcast, we thought we'd talk about celeb stories. So I literally have a whole page,
It's a big
whole
list.
page, and this is an edited
Yes.
list because we thought we'd just share, like, one of the positives or one of the bonuses of my job is that we get to meet people that we dig professionally, which is I'm going to have to get a pen. There we go. This is going to be one of those ones where I'm going to fidget.
Yes.
Yeah, so one of the advantages of being in the Suns is that we get to travel around Australia with the wonderful people at Supanova Comic-Con and Gaming. It's on in... Actually, this podcast will probably drop the week, maybe the week after.
Yeah.
Supanova's on in 2 weekends' time, and we do 4 to 5 Novas a year. We've already done Gold Coast, Melbourne. The next league is Sydney-Perth, but we can't afford the flights to Perth this year.
Yeah.
It's cost prohibitive. And then we do Brisbane and hopefully Adelaide. I haven't done Adelaide for 5 years, so
Okay.
I thought it might be fun to go down there. But again, that depends on money.
Because that'll be flights.
That's
too.
flights.
Yeah.
I drove.
I was going to say, you drive to Queensland.
We look, 10 hours is a happy space. That's what we're used to driving. We drive as far north as Brisbane or Toowoomba, down far south as Melbourne.
Of course.
We did in 2017, 2016, somewhere around there. The first Adelaide we drove it, and it was 28 hours driving straight.
Yeah, I know.
Just rotating
That's-
drivers. Nelly getting wiping out koalas and emus and
hectic.
the hay plane. And then so we'd done Brisbane. So the weekend before, Thursday, we drive to Brisbane. Friday, we set up and bomb around. We have one day where Jeff, our baby Yoda that comes with us, will take Jeff places.
That's
like
right.
in Perth, we took
Get
him
some
to
nice
the
shots.
aquarium. And
Yeah.
like last time in Brisbane, there was a Disney art exhibit at the museum there, so we went and did that. Then we worked Saturday, Sunday, drove back overnight. So we finished the gig 6 o'clock Sunday on the road, 8 p.m. Sunday, drive overnight, get back home 7 in the morning, 4 hours sleep, get up, work Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, finish work at 8 o'clock Wednesday night. We jumped in the car, got there like Thursday night about 11 o'clock.
Wow.
Friday, we went out, did our thing, worked Saturday, Sunday, jumped back in the car Sunday night, got back to the temple at like 5 p.m. Monday afternoon, just as the first students were walking in, and
Wow.
I'm too old. I can't do that anymore.
That was brutal.
That was brutal. So, so I just thought it'd be fun to tell some stories because I've always been a bit of a star fornicator. Like I was telling Seany the other day that my first ever celeb I met was, oh, God, there's
It's
more.
not on the list?
No. That's another one.
Okay.
Yeah. My first celeb interaction was I went to the Virgin Megastore that used to be upstairs at Darling Harbour and met Roxette.
Yes.
Of Dress for Success and all of that.
Yep.
I got a Cassingle, the Dress for Success, orange Cassingle autographed. And I was a music nerd, so there's a place in town called, it's a heavy metal shop in town, Utopia Records. I met like Faith No More and Primus in there. Then I worked in like music retail and the music industry for years, so... Met like Robbie Williams, no doubt. Oh, okay, this one. I was going out to DJ one night at the Orient Hotel down in Sydney, right? Do you know where the Orient is? It's a pub on the corner opposite Circular Quay.
Oh, yeah.
Right. Wild place. If you ever get bored and want to go people watching, go down there when there's an American ship in town. All the sailors come off and all the girls come in. So it was one of those nights, and it was a rollicking night. I'm going to say a nerdy word for a sec, naughty word. I'm sitting in the corner and I hear this, "Fuck off!" And I went, I know that voice. It was Billy Connolly. And so I went over and I just went, "Mr. Connolly, I'm a big fan of your work." And he's like, "What are you doing here tonight?" And I said, "I'm DJing here tonight." So I ended up drinking with him. He was very cool.
Yes.
Jennifer Love Hewitt.
Oh, yeah.
From I Know What You Did Last Summer and Party of Five and all that. Who else have I got on here? Sarah McLeod from Super Jesus. Do you know them? Like, really great Australian rock band. Then being a DJ, I work with the who's who of Australian DJs like Nick Fish and Nick Skitz and Lisa Lashes and Stephen Alkins and Josh Abrams, who did Totally Addicted to Bass. So I started DJing when all those guys kicked off. Like my career went a different direction because I went out into the country, whereas those guys played the cities.
That's right.
Because I went out to go and do uni. So pretty much every known Australian DJ I've done, like Kid Kenobi, I've done gigs, John Corse, Mark Dynamics. This probably means nothing to you, but
I'm not familiar with these things.
But it was a who's. It was a who's
That's
who.
a who's who.
That's a who's who of the Australian dance industry, just because I just ended up doing gigs at all these places. Because that's another podcast we'll have to do on my DJ career. That's a whole other one. Then when I was I lived up in Coffs Harbour for a couple of years, and there's a pub up there called the Hoey Moey, right? So when I used to DJ in Armidale, there were only two places in town to DJ. It was Sevens, which was my main gig, and the other one was called the New England Hotel, and I did gigs there as well. And the guy that owned the Hoey down in Coffs Harbour. So Coffs Harbour's halfway between Sydney and Brisbane.
Yeah.
So if there were any mid-level bands playing, they drive up and they get free accommodation and free grog.
Yeah.
And a little bit of cash, so they get a free night's accommodation.
That's right.
They play a gig there, and I went to the after party for the Warp Tour. Do you remember the Warp Tour? It was like all the skate music.
Yeah, right.
Like the lineup on that was like Blink 182, Royal Crown Review, who were the swing band in The Mask.
Right.
You know the swing band. Yeah, I used to be really into swing. Who else did I say out there? No Use for a Name, No Effects, Bucko 9, Smash Mouth, the guys that did All Star and Walking on the Sun and stuff. So I've always enjoyed meeting celebs, but it's not I just want to say thank you. Like when music and movies have always been my escape, so I'm not like I just rock up and go, "Hey man, I really dig your work." I just want to say thank you. And so it's something I've always done. Doug Anthony All-Stars. Do you remember the Doug Anthony All-Stars?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, comedy tour, a comedy group in Australia. I was a huge fan of theirs when I was a kid, and they played Newcastle a couple of years ago. And Tim, the guy that has MS, that's now in the wheelchair, has the second largest Star Wars collection in Australia.
Yes.
So I got to give him one, which was really cool. But I thought, seeing as we're going to talk Suns, let's talk about all the pop culture people
That's right.
I've met.
Because the Suns have done quite a few celebrity meets.
Okay, so I counted up on this list today, and of what I could think of, there's 33 sabres given away.
Wow.
And that's just, they're the ones that I know there's others.
Yeah.
I've forgotten. I'd have to go through a file, because at each Supanova, they'll usually have, 15, 20 guests. But I was, so I started going to Supanova in 2004. And I met David Carradine, Bill from Kill Bill and Kung Fu, right? I paid. I used to go to the cons, but I would have a budget of $100 or 100. Like I never had money, so it's something. Cons are very different for me, because back when I started doing cons, that was the only place you could get nerdy stuff. Right now, Kmart sells bobbleheads and you've got your zings and your pop cultures. that stuff didn't exist. So we had to rely, because this is just as eBay's starting to kick off. Like
Yes.
eBay made everything a lot easier as well. But there were a bunch of guys that would travel to the States and shop
Yep.
and bring it back. So I met David Carradine in 2004, and I was so excited. Oh my God, I got him to sign a baseball, but just because the problem is when you get stuff autographed, it's hard to show it or display it. So I used to get baseballs autographed because you can get the baseball holders,
That's right.
and you just have a shelf full of baseballs. And he looked at me,
Good idea.
and he sort of looked up at me, and then he went, "What time is it?" And I went, 2:00. He went, "Right," and signed my thing and just gave it back to me, and I walked away. And the guy there said I was the only person he'd spoken to that day. He'd just been, I don't know, that was a weird one.
Yes.
But so
But that wasn't your first celeb.
that was my first con
Right.
celeb.
At a con.
Oh,
yes.
dude, that whole list, most of that.
Yeah, that all
happened
preceded that.
before that. And I went to the cons for years, and I never had the money. So the area, the celeb area, I lovingly call Vultures Row, because that's where all of the celebs sit and everyone stands in the background. Because if you can't afford a photo or an auto, at least you can see them. So I was a Vultures Row guy. I would just go, oh, that'd be nice, like that'd be cool. But no, like I remember when Tem Morrison, who we'll talk about later, I've met Tem probably 5 or 6 times now. Don't get me wrong, like I haven't been to Tem's house, but he knows who we are, and he's like, "Hey man, how's it going?" Where was I going with that? Tem Morrison, early Tem.
The first time. The first, con.
Well, okay, so the first time I met him, I was DJing a gig at Supanova, and he just came and boogied next to me for half an hour, and then when Occupation came out, I like to just go and catch up with them and say hi. But that's right, Tem, I bought an ostrich egg, and from Once More Warriors, I wanted him to sign to Luke, cook the man some effing eggs to Mira Morrison. And there was a period there where he was supposed to come out 3 years in a row, and he cancelled 3 times in a row. And when I was cleaning my house out 10 years later, I just found this box with an ostrich egg in it that had just fallen apart because it had been that long, and I'd still hadn't gotten to get an autograph. But so our first celeb presentation, which was awesome, was Kevin Smith.
Yes.
Okay, of Clerks and Mallrats.
You're a huge fan of
I'm a
his.
huge fan. I saw Clerks at the movies. When I was starting the business, I'd talk about the cult of 37. So if you know Kevin Smith movies, 37's a very big running joke in it. And it became my lucky number for the business. And it was when I was starting the business, Kevin Smith was making a movie called Tusk, and it was the first time he'd busted outside the studio system again. And he was making it just for himself. He was just making a movie to make a movie. And all of the podcasts were like, just do it, chase your dream, all that sort of stuff. So when I was starting the business, every time I'd be going, this is stupid, this is going to fail, and I'd look up and it'd be 11:37, or my phone would be on 37%, or I'd be driving 37 kilometres an hour. And it just became a running joke that, when we go away at cons, we always get table number 37 or order 37. Like, it's a cult thing now. So Kevin Smith was a big one for me, and I did that. He did a Jane Silent Bob Get Old podcast down at the State Theatre, and I jumped in line. He always takes Q&As at the end, and I know he talks heaps, so I actually watched the whole thing standing first in line to do it, and I just said, "Hey man, I've just started a Sabre schools because of you. Here's a Sabre," which was really cool. And then I saw him at the Opera House the next week, and there's a really cool photo of us standing back to back with our Sabres. And I took it up to get it signed, and I walked up and he goes, "Geez, you're getting some mileage out of that photo." And I'm like, yeah, I am. Biggest, probably Stan Lee was phenomenal.
That's huge.
Yeah, he had a huge con. He'd been at Kamikaze, which is like LA Comic Con, the weekend before. This is 6 months before he died. This is old man Stan, 96.
That's right.
His body man, like his people around him were sort of milking him for a bit of cash before he shuffled. It was a bit sad, but he'd done the con the weekend before, flown out to Australia, done the con, and we were the last people that were seeing him on the Sunday. Like, there were photos of people where in their photo he's asleep in the chair. And we went in, took the whole crew in, and I said, "Look, Mr. Lee, you're Stan Lee. He's the way, like Nightcrawler is one of my favourite comic characters. That person that's judged on how they look as opposed to who they are. It was a real big thing for me. And I went, Mr. Lee, I thank you, so much. And I said, this is what we do. And I said, we've made you a sabre, and we made him a gold-plated sabre with his face in the leather. And he looked at it and he went, it's a fair likeness, and passed it off. And then my daughter, Snoop, she didn't really, she wasn't a nerd, but she'd heard of Stan Lee.
Yeah.
Like, she knew who Stan Lee was and what his position was in nerdery. And all weekend, like, she would have been 10 at the time, maybe 8. She gets, all weekend, I want to get him something and give it to him. And I'm like, why don't you get him something Spider-Man? And she's like, Dad, everyone would get him Spider-Man. And I went, okay, fair enough. Here's $20. Go and buy Stan a present. And she came back with a piece of knitted sushi. I don't know why.
Knitted sushi.
And she just, like, this little girl goes, Mr. Lee, I saw this and thought of you, and gave it to him. And he's like, oh, thank you so much, and put it in his pocket. And then as I was getting up to leave, he grabbed me by the arm and he went, I'm really proud of you, son. You're doing good work. Keep it up. And I just welled up. I was like, oh, thanks, Mr. Lee. Because
that's awesome.
that was like being touched by God, man.
Yeah.
Like it was.
And he was a pretty lucid guy, right? At the end. He was waning.
I think he was observing more than people, because it was a couple of months after his wife died, and they were together for like 430 years. Like they'd been together since the late 50s, early 60s. Yeah. And I think he was just a bit lost, so he needed something to fill in his day. So he was happy for the people to trundle him around. But as I said, like, he was casually dismissive in a non-nasty way. It's just like, oh, righto, well done, good work, mate. And then waited until it was, because there was a group of 10 of us there. But he waited, because what I was kneeling next to him, and as I went to put my hand on my knee, that's when he grabbed me, because he wanted to speak.
Direct.
Well done. So that was lovely.
And you got a great photo with him too.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, he was our honorary Grand Master up until his death. Mm-hmm. And then we had a grieving period, and now Mr. Mark Ratz is the new Grand Master of the Suns. We'll talk about him in a bit. Mm-hmm. Jason Momoa.
Yes.
This was actually through Oz Comic Con.
Are these in order?
Oh, no.
They're not.
No, this dude.
Those two, Kevin Smith's a massive Stan Lee fan too, right?
Oh, phenomenally
so
huge. Phenomenally
they're
huge.
kind of in order, those two, right?
Yeah, for me, like, those two are big. Momoa, so most of the ones I give because they've touched my life in some way. So obviously Kevin Smith, absolutely. Stan, absolutely. Yep. Momoa, I really dug Game of Thrones, and I just dug Jason as a person. We gave him a saber. We gave him a brass hurricane with fish skin leather, so it looked like the trident with his suit. And he looked at it and he went, that's rad, but I've got 2 kids. And I was like, oh, yeah, all right. So I came home that night and wired him another saber and took it back. And then he broed down with us for about 20 minutes.
Yeah,
he was just like, I think he sort of thought, oh, that's a bit harsh. And so he just hung out with us. Yeah. And, like, having conversations, he's like, so I go, so what are you doing this weekend? And he goes, oh, I'm flying back Monday, and I'm throwing tomahawks Tuesday, and I'm riding motorbikes Wednesday, and I'm rock climbing Thursday. And he's like, what about you? And I'm like, I'm swinging sabres and being fat, But only man to rob me of my masculinity. That dude just is
very masculine.
All man. He's just big and strong. He's a lot... Same as Hemsworth as well. They're actually not as big as you think. They're not like Schwarzenegger big, but they're just ripped. Everything's just ripped. So that was cool. Chris Hemsworth, that was a scalp, right? I dig Hemsworth, but that was just like, it's Thor, man. We can't not give something to Thor, but it wasn't like a really personal one. But he was cool. He was a bit Hollywood about it, but he was like, yeah, that's cool. Videos for a lot of these are up on the YouTube as well. Elijah Woods. So Frodo from Lord of the Rings. For me, he was Kevin in Sin City. He was the serial killer with the glasses. Mm-hmm.
But what about the series that he did with the dog? What's it called?
Oh, Wilfred?
Wilfred. I mean, that's just
that
gold.
was wild. For me, my two favourite movies for him were Sin City, and he did a really cool movie called Green Street Hooligans, where he starts hanging out with soccer hooligans. It's like American History X for soccer hooligans.
Right.
Really phenomenal film. He was really cute actually because. Like, as I said, for anyone that knows me, I hate Lord of the Rings. I've met everyone from Lord of the Rings, and some of my mates have been in Lord of the Rings, but it's not my jam. But obviously, because the thing is with these guys, if they get one role they're recognised for, we were talking about meeting Smash Mouth, right? Mm. I saw him up at the Batto Bay RSL, which is like a tiny little, the Leagues Club, Batto Bay, the Leagues Club up there. And I went and saw it, and I've been a fan. I was a Scar boy back in the day, so I've been a fan of Smash Mouth since the 90s. But everyone knows them for All Star from Shrek. Right? And so myself and a mate went to the gig, and we both were into them in the day, and the whole crowd were 18-year-olds that they just kept going, play All-Star, play All-Star, play All-Star.
That's a classic.
And I took up I had an original poster from the 90s of one of their gigs, like a Smash Mouth poster, and he got it, and he looked up at me, and his eyes almost welled, and he went, thank you. He said, I've been signing Shrek CDs for 6 years. Elijah Wood, same thing. So we, hey, Elijah, this is what we do. And he's like, rock on. And I said, we've made you a present. And I pulled down and went to pull the saber out, and I could see in his eyes, he was just going, it's going to be Lord of the Rings. Right? And I pull it out, and I'm like, it's an original comic panel of Kevin from Sin City, and he's like, get the fuck out! Oh, got all excited. That was fun. Because it's just, when people meet celebs, they get so wrapped up in what they want to happen, they don't actually enjoy it. Do you get what I mean? It's like, it's cool, man. Like, it's really nice to sort of see them and that, but take 2 seconds to have a conversation with them, man.
That's right.
They're
human beings too.
Well, it's funny. One of the things with the business, one of the things I have to give my guys is celeb training, right? And that's, we meet a lot of celebs. Celebs will often come by our table. We've now got celebs at our table. We've got Matt Doran and Michael Kingmar at Sydney this year. And they spend all day with people losing their crap over.
That's right.
Oh my God, it's you! I love you! Oh, can I feel your muscle? Oh.
Breaking down.
Teaching the kids to just walk in and go, hey. 5-second conversation. Elijah Woods, I've been talking to celeb wranglers, and they said he had the flu. And I said, how are you going, man? And he goes, what do you mean? And I said, I heard you got the flu. And he's like, oh, thanks, man. Like, I'm all right. The Sudafeds, but you'd like, do you get what I mean? He was being a soldier.
You're thoughtful. That's the difference.
The thing is, if you sit down and watch celebs on Vulture's Row, it's emotionally a really intensive day, because you've got, like, Tim Morrison, when he was at Melbourne, we saw him down in Melbourne, April. By the end of Sunday, he was sitting there. He was still being really nice and talking to everyone, but he had a hoodie up, a glass. You could just see he was smashed, because Tem has a really long name, and he writes it beautifully. So he's like, Temuera Morrison. And he always says, your name, and he always has a little chat to you. Like, he's really lovely like that. But it's really an emotionally heavy day. So I've got to train the kids to not fangirl. Like, if you're a fan of them, just make sure you say it, but drop it and move on. Yeah. Because I was saying to Shawnee before the show, I'm really excited about this Sydney, because we're hitting our stride as a business, and I've got, there's 10 names on here of guys that have become mates. Yeah. Like, they're really good friends.
That's right.
And the nerd in me at 20 would be losing my stuff right about now, Yeah. It's really, it's cool, man. Who else have we got? Sean Astin. Okay, so once again, Lord of the Rings, but to me, he is Goonies, and Encino Man was a massive. Did you know Encino Man with Brendan Fraser, where he's a caveman? Yeah, give us a whistle, buddy, like that. Yeah. I love that movie. My best mate and I, at the end of year 12, they do a dance. They're formal in the movie, and we learnt the dance and did it at our year 12 formal. It's to a suicidal tendency. No, Infectious Groove song. And when my daughter was a kid, digress for a sec. I'm a teacher, so when I was raising my daughter, I wanted to build memory and retention and that. So I used to have call and response stuff with her, right? So that when she was a tiny little baby, there's a thing they do in Seany, man, where you put your fingers out like that. It's called a weasel, and you go, and you make the sound and everything, right?
Right.
So she'd be a little 2-year-old, and I'd go weasel, and she'd go. So she knew it. She'd never seen the movie. She didn't know what it was from. And I took her to meet Sean Astin, and while we were waiting to line up to meet him, I said, "Give him a weasel." And she goes, "What?" And I went, "Walk up to him, stick your fingers out, and go weasel."
Yeah.
And she walked in, and Sean's like, "Hello, everyone." And he goes, "Who are you?" And she goes, "I'm Halia. That's my dad." Weasel? And he went, "Oh." And she was like, "What the hell?" And I said, he was the guy that did it in the movie. Because Halia's not a nerd like that. There's been a few guests she's been excited about, but it's really funny. So she moved to a new school, right? And she came down and met Momoa with us, right? Mm. And they were at school, and the kids were talking about Aquaman, and Snoop goes, I've met Jason. And they go, "Who's Jason?" And she goes, "Jason Momoa, the guy that played Aquaman. I've met him." And the kids, it was an all-girls school, they're just like, "Why are you lying?" And she's like, "I'm not. I met him with Dad. We got to chill. I've got photos with him and stuff." And they go, "No, you don't." And so she comes home that night and goes, "Dad, why don't the girls believe me?" And I went, "Take in your folder." She's got a folder of her with Sean Astin, who else? Stan Lee, all the guys from Adventure. She was a big Adventure Time fan. So, we met like John DiMaggio, who does the voice of Jake the dog, and he's Bender on Futurama.
Yeah, that guy's great.
At our first con, they were the first celebs we got to know. We were wandering around, and I was outside having a smoke, and it just happened to be the celeb area when I was just smoking in the celeb area, and he comes out, and he goes, "That's a cool jumper. Where'd you get that from?" I said, "Me, that's my business. Are you a Star Wars fan?" And he goes, "No, I'm cold." And I went, "Okay, fair enough." And so I went and got him a hoodie. I said, "Look, I'll swap you a hoodie for a photo." So he got a photo of it and stuff. And we also met Billy West, who's the voice of, he's Ren and Stimpy. Yeah. He was the Red M&M. He is main dude on Futurama. What's his name? Fry on Futurama. Did the same thing with him. Yeah. And then a couple of years later, John came back. And that's when Halia was into Jake the dog. And I said, "Do you want to go and meet Jake the dog?" And she goes, I said, "Okay, come with me." I said, "John might remember me." And she's like, "No, Dad." And I'm like, "No, seriously. Like, I met him at that con a couple of years ago." Yeah. She's all right. And we get halfway down the line, and he leans out and goes, "Luke, what up?" And Halia's head just went, and that's gold. And we took him up, and he sang a bacon pancakes and did all the voices for her. That was cool. Nice. Tom Welling. Okay, so he was Clark Kent on the old Smallville, the real good-looking dude.
My wife loved that dude.
Oh, me too. Amanda did as well. Mm-hmm. I was a huge Smallville fan. And he tours around with Michael Rosenbaum, who was Lex Luthor on the show. They do a lot of the cons together. And one of the other guys on our list is Greg Grunberg. So, he plays Snap Wexley, who's the Porkins, the fat pilot in Eps 7 and 9. He's been in everything. He's J.J. Abrams' best friend. Right. So he's been in Star Trek and Alias, and he was Matt Parkman in Heroes and Star Wars, everything. And we gave Greg a Sabre. He was one of our early ones. And he just really dug what we like. Because when we do presentations, we go to Supanova first and put a request in so that it's cleared through their management and everything's fine. And can we film it? And because you don't want to put them on the spot and make them feel uncomfortable. And he came out and spied us, and he's a really lovely dude, Greg Grunberg. Anyway, he rang us from LA a couple of weeks later and goes, "I really dig what you guys do. I'm doing a telethon on CBS, and we want you guys to, would you be able to do a 10-minute video to be played on American TV?" And I'm like, "Yeah, no stress." So we ended up making a short film called Hero, but I got a bunch of my mates together, and it stars John Jarrett from Wolf Creek. And it was all filmed at Yarramalong. It's a full-on Star Wars space battle in Australia with John Jarrett as a cop trying to work out what the hell's going on with two guys fighting with lightsabers in the bush, right? It's a really cool film.
That's gold.
And we sent that to him and he loved it. Like, it was a finalist in the Cannes Short Film Festival. It was done in 3 months on a $4,000 budget.
Nice.
It was all filmed at Yarramalong, at a property at Yarramalong.
Yeah.
And Greg Grunberg went on Michael Rosenbaum's podcast.
All right, these are lightsabers. This is Kylo Ren.
Ching, 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 ching. Dude,
Right?
this is so cool that you did this.
Is it cool? I'm a grown man.
Because I never got to use one of these in the movie. Snap Wexley is a pilot.
I know.
I mean, this is so cool that I get to
I'm
do
45 and I have lightsabers in my house.
this. Can I give a plug to the best lightsabers on the planet? If somebody is looking for an indestructible lightsaber, Sons of Obi-Wan. That's all I need to say.
Maybe they'll give me a free one now.
Oh, they will.
Sons of Obi-Wan?
Sons of Obi-Wan. And I only plug them because I do an epilepsy netathon, sort of like Jerry Lewis, to help.
Love it.
And they made a movie for me. And the Sons of Obi-Wan made a movie for my talkaboutit.org. By the way, that's my foundation because we need to talk about this, not afraid to talk about it. By the way, today, Michael Rosenbaum is my epilepsy hero, is hashtag my epilepsy hero. You're letting me. I'm not kidding, dude.
But I'm interested in this, and I care about you, and I care about Jake, and I care about people who have suffer from anything. And hearing people who have to do, you don't have to suffer. You can actually get help, and you can get, you can work.
Yeah,
on
this is an entertaining podcast, dude. You didn't need to spend this much time on it, and I cannot. I'm literally crying right now. It means the world to me, and it means the world to so many. 3.5 million Americans are dealing with seizures and epilepsy. For you to be able to let me talk about this,
You're gonna make me cry. So
Okay.
stop this.
I love you for that.
See me
Anyway.
doing this?
So Sons of Obi-Wan, they made a short film, and it's so good, and they did it for us, and we were able to use it on the Netathon. And so any chance I get, I plug their indestructible
Sons of Obi-Wan.
Sons of Obi-Wan.
I love it.
Yeah.
Hey, Tom.
And Michael pulls out sabers and goes, I'll check this out. And Greg's a pimp. He'll always just be, if you want a saber, I've got these mates in Australia. They're called the Sons of Obi-Wan. They make the strongest because we supported him and he supports us. And Rosenbaum goes, do you reckon they give me a free lightsaber? And he goes, you never know. Next time you go to Australia, see and find out. It's on the YouTube. And so I thought, all right, well, we'll give one to Michael Rosenbaum. So we gave it to him, and he thought it was cool. He's a lightsaber nut. And Tom Welling was sitting next to him watching the presentation. So fast forward to last year, we were, Tom and Michael were at Supanova Sydney in Perth, and they sent down one of the guys we know from Supanova and said, they do a thing called Smallville Nights where the guys do skits together, and it's just like an entertainment thing they do on the Saturday night at the con. And one of the guys comes down and goes, boys want to know if they can borrow a couple of lightsabers. And we went, yeah, cool, I'll bring them up. So I just waited till the afternoon and it quietened down, and I walk up and Michael Rosenbaum goes, oh, lightsabers. I love lightsabers. And I went, I know you do. And he goes, what do you mean? And I said, we gave you a saber. And he goes, which one? And I said, the one with the Luther Corp logo in the leather. And he was like, I love that. And as this is happening, Tom leans in and goes, g'day, Luke, how are you, mate? And I'm like, oh, hello, Tom. Like, because I'd never really interacted with him before. And he was like, do you mind if we borrow these sabers? We'll look after them. And I'm like, don't worry about looking after them. They're fine. And he goes, what do you mean? And I started bashing them around. And he goes, I've got a 7-year-old. And I went, they're 7-year-old proof. And he goes, really? He said, I'll come down and buy 4. And I went, yeah, righto, no stress. Because sometimes they'll talk and then walk and get busy. So anyway, I lend the boys the sabers. They use them. They get sent back. 11 o'clock the next morning, I'm at the counter and I hear one of the mums, Ash is one of our mums. Her kid's been going for years, and she started training with us. She helps run the counter at big cons.
Yep.
She turns around and goes, "Oh my God, I stepped on Superman!" And I went, "What?" And Tom had just turned up at our booth, and she turned around and bumped straight into him and gone, "Ah!" Yeah. But he bought 4, paid full price, didn't want a discount. Like that's really lovely about it. And I said, "Man, if you buy 4, I'll make you one." So I made him a Superman one. That was my first ever leather that I made for a celeb.
That's right.
And yeah, he's a delicious human being. I said, "Do you mind if we film?" And he goes, "Film is not my thing, but I'd love a photo." I went, "No stress." And he jumped all on top of us. He's a beautiful, beautiful human being.
That's awesome.
Travis Famel from Vikings, he sack-whacked one of our instructors.
Sack-whacked.
with a lightsaber. He actually ended up buying. Yeah, seriously. He ended up buying another one for his son. Like again, like we gave him a bit of a discount, but like that's a lot of celebs sort of expect. So it's nice when they go, no, you gave me a saber, man. I want to buy one. Like, do you get what I mean? That's cool.
That's right.
Kevin Eastman, the guy that created the Turtles, they talk about Eastman and Laird. He's Eastman. He was the artist. He's the guy that drew the Turtles. That was rad because
You're a big fan of his.
Big fan. I'm rocking my Jamie Johnson.
You've got it.
RAF shirt today. The Turtles and Mr. Miyagi were why I got into martial arts, and my first martial art was ninjutsu, and I did Sai because I was a RAF fan.
Yeah.
That was he was lovely. That was really cool. He's going to be at Sydney in a couple of weeks, so we're going to give him one of our RAF shirts. This is done by Jamie Johnson, who's an Australian artist who is doing the comic covers on The Last Ronin. Have you heard about that storyline?
No.
I haven't read it yet. I've got to read it this week. I've had the comic for 2 years and I haven't read it. All the turtles are dead and Mikey's the last one left. And it's like, yeah. So Jamie has been doing the comic covers for that. All right. Chuck Norris, phenomenal human being. He was so cool. That was a huge one. Like, dude, Chuck Norris, Steven Seagal, and Jean-Claude Van Damme were and Jackie Chan were my childhood.
That was the era of...
Invasion USA is one of the greatest terrible action movies ever made. That and Delta Force. Dude, he was really lovely because what we do with lightsabers, he's done for 20 years with karate, working with special needs kids and stuff. So he ended up spending 20 minutes talking, how do you teach this? How do you do that? So that was...
And he loves his martial arts.
He just got, as soon as I said, this is what we do, he's like, nice, tell me about it, because that was...
Yeah. Where was Chuck Norris? Where'd you meet him?
That was, Brisbane or Sydney?
Yeah.
It's
going back a few years
It's
now.
a few years now. Yeah. It was pre-pandemic, so probably 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah.
John Travolta, very Hollywood. Like it was just, you walked in, you took the photo. We all went in. Had lightsabers with black cones coming out of them for grease, and we had like the photo. And we had before we had Jeff, we had Son's Yoda, who was I've got a life-size Yoda, and he just looked at it and laughed, and we moved on. All right, Greg Grunberg I've talked about. Carrie Ewells, the Dread Pirate Roberts from Princess Bride. He was the main dude in Robin Hood Men in Tights and Hot Shots. He's the guy, the really good-looking dude.
Right.
Lovely. Spent 20 minutes talking about fencing because when the boys were doing the fight in The Princess Bride, you know how I said in the other podcast, all the names they were dropping were actual because they studied it. Spent 20 minutes talking about, have you seen this? This is what they do. He was a class act.
That's cool.
Millie Bobby Brown. Okay, this was a fun one. It was just when she was coming up. Like, I think it was second season of Stranger Things. We made her a 24-karat gold-plated saber with the House Organa logo on it because she wants to play Princess Leia because she looks just like Carrie Fisher. Lost it. She was so excited. She gave my daughter a hug. My daughter turned around to her, and this is another one on the YouTube. She said, like, I really love you. You're an inspiration. I want to be an actress, and you're an actress. And she gave her a big hug. So that was cute. Sam Jones. Okay. Original Flash Gordon. Flash, like 70s big buff Flash. Lovely human being. Most down-to-earth dude.
It's one of your most recent designs.
Yeah. That was November. Like, that was Brisbane last year. That was a cool one because that was a movie that I watched incessantly as a kid. Like, because it was always on TV. It was always on TV. So he, really lovely human being. We went and did the Sabre presentation, and we went, cool. And he said, want some autographs? I'm like, look, man, you're busy. We'll come over later. Came over, brought a handful of all these things, went to everyone in our team. What do you want? I'll sign it for you. Like, really lovely. He now works as a personal bodyguard for celebs. That's how he actually makes his coin. Yeah. Sam Jones. Michael Bean. Okay, so Kyle Reese in
Reese.
Terminator.
That's
He
right.
was Hicks in Aliens.
Hicks.
He was in The Mandalorian. Tombstone. He was the baddie in Tombstone. Navy SEALs. Navy SEALs was my jam, man. The old Charlie Sheen where they all jump out like off bridges, and I love that. So that and The Abyss was another one.
That's right.
James
He
Cameron's
was
The
good in that.
Abyss. I love that movie. He was really cool, actually. We gave him one, and he was staying out here for 6 months. He was filming something up in Queensland, and he saw us in November, and his wife came because his wife was there as well. She's been in, I think she was in Dark Angel, Jennifer Bean, her name is, and she goes, look, he loved the Sabre. That's another presentation that's on the YouTube. He loved the Sabre, but we don't know if we've lost it or we've sent it back to the US because they're staying here for 6 months. They keep getting stuff and sending it back.
Right.
So they ended up buying another one just in case, so
Just
their
in
son
case.
could have it. So that was cool.
Yeah, that's nice.
All right, who we got up here? We've done Tom Welling. Another really strong personal one, James O'Barr. So he was the dude. You remember the movie The Crow with Brandon Bruce Lee's son died in? He did the original comic. Have you ever read the original comic of that?
No.
Okay, so the story behind the comic, he was in the military living in Germany, I think, at the time. Like, see, this is cool because I got to hang out because no one knew who he was. I hung out and talked to him for about 3 hours. There was a home invasion and his girlfriend was killed in front of him during the home invasion.
Wow.
So you know how in the movie there's the home invasion, and then the comic was his way of punishing the guys that killed. So if you ever read the comic, it's all black and white, and it's a bit like probably, have you ever read Walking Dead comics?
Yeah,
Like
a little bit.
You know how they're black and white, but the way they show the blood splatter, it was wild. And I was reading that when I was angry at my mum. So that one really appealed to me. So
That's going back 30 plus years.
The Crow would have come out. It'd have to be mid to late 80s, I think. I don't know. The movie was early 90s.
That's right. It's been around for a while.
So that was really, really
Yeah.
cool. All right, so we've done him. We've done the Dougs. I'm getting an old man. We've done we met Carl Urban down in Melbourne. Made him a Sabre, but he didn't have enough room to take it. We've had a couple of celebrities turn down Sabres just because they're like Alan Tudyk. So have you? He was
K2SO.
Firefly, K2SO. He's the chicken in Moana. He was King Candy in Wreck-It Ralph. We had a school in today that came in, a special needs unit that came in and did Sabre lessons because they're doing medieval history, and we teach European longsword. So we brought them in to teach them some of that. And I threw on A Knight's Tale. Do you remember the movie A Knight's Tale? It's a jousting movie, and it's got them jousting to We Will Rock You and stuff. And the cast is like Heath Ledger.
Yes, that's right.
And it's got Alan Tudyk.
Yeah.
And it's got the dude that plays Vision in Marvel. I can't think of his name. And John Baratheon from Game of Thrones. They're all the main stars of it. So
Tudyk was also in a recent series. Have you watched that?
No, I haven't. I've heard of it.
One?
Yeah, I
it's
have.
Bloody good.
What's it called?
I'm terrible with things like that now. But it's he just turns up, and he's supposed to destroy the earth. And then realises, because he masks himself. It's actually very good. It's funny.
I've heard it's good, but
it's got good humour in it.
Time.
Yeah. I'll think of the name.
So with him, he was just like, look, I wouldn't appreciate it. It's not I don't appreciate it, but it would just be like, it's like, he was really honest. It'd just be a thing in my house. So I would rather you sell it and make some cash. So
he's a minimalist.
But he was lovely. He signed the leather and he signed a heap of comics for us to raffle off for charity and stuff. So he was a real class act.
Yeah.
Who else?
You mentioned another one there.
Oh, dude, like Michael Jai White. Okay, so he played the original Spawn. He's a really big martial arts dude. He's African American. He was in the Blood and Bone series.
Right.
Really good. He's a cool martial artist. His presentation's on there. Hardest hit I've ever copped on a Sabre because he's trained in karate for like 30. You should look up a photo of him. I'll put a photo up. He's jacked, and it's not bodybuilder jacked. It's his whole body is a lethal weapon jacked. Graham McTavish, right. He was in Outlander. He was the cranky uncle in Outlander. Have you watched the new Game of Thrones, House of Dragons? He's the head of the Kingsguard in that. Okay. He was Dwalin in The Hobbit, the cranky dwarf with the mohawk and the tattoos on his head. He's Scottish. All he plays is big, Arcledy, I'm going to stab you, like the really gruff Scottish dudes. We gave him a sabre, and we made a sabre bag for it out of the McTavish clan tartan, right? And so, look, we've just got a present for you, and handed to it, and he turned into a foppish English actor. Oh my, oh my, that's my tartan. And I went, yeah, man. And he goes, oh, it's a beautiful bag, thank you. And I'm like, look inside, and he, is that a lightsaber? So he was fun. Then like Manu Bennett, Christopher Judge from Teal'c, from what's it called? Stargate.
Yeah.
Richard Dean Anderson from Stargate. Well, for me, it's MacGyver.
Yes, of course.
He was really cool. Like one of the first cons we'd been at, and one of our students was wearing one of our shirts. And when he was doing the signing, he was like, oh, I love your shirt.
Yeah.
And the guy goes, oh, they're here. They're mates of mine. Do you want one? And he goes, oh, no. Because, like, he's older now and he's packed on a bit of weight. And he goes, oh, they never make shirts in my size. And he went, you haven't seen the size of the boss. Don't worry. I'll send him down.
Yeah.
And so we turned down. And this is before we knew anyone in the con scene. This was at an Oz Comic Con. And we walk up and we're like, Mr. Anderson wants to see us. And the little schmeckle guards that run the volunteers are like, no, he doesn't. And I'm like, he does. And they're like, you're just trying to get to the front of the line. And I said, just do me a favour, go over to him and say the lightsaber guys are here with your shirt. She walked over and whispered in his ear and he's like, oh, come over. Oh, that's great. And then he was like, awesome. Like we gave him the shirt and he's like, that's awesome. He goes, I want a photo with you. And I pulled my camera out and he's like, no, I want a proper photo with you. We went, righto. So he said, meet me here at this time the next day at the photo booths and we'll get the photo. And I went, yeah, rock on, no stress. So we turn up and we go, Mr. Anderson wants a photo with us. And the chick's like, no, he doesn't. And I'm like, yeah, he does. And she's like, no, he doesn't. I said, go and speak to Manager X. They'll tell you.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, oh, I'm so sorry. Come inside. And he took a photo jumping into our arms. He was lovely. And then we got a copy of the photo and signed it ourselves and presented it to him in front of 2,000 people at one of his panels. My daughter gave it to him.
Really?
He loved it. That was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Who else? RJ Mitty from Breaking Bad. So he was Walt Jr.
Yep.
Lovely human being.
He's great.
He got us because he's actually got cerebral palsy.
That's right.
So he really dug like what we do. He saw the physiotherapy side of it. He thought it was really cool. And he came up and trained at the temple. He was out here filming a film, so he brought the whole cast up to the temple, which is lovely.
Yeah.
All right. And then how long have we been going for now?
We're going for about
45.
45.
Yeah, that's good. So it'll be about an hour. All right. So these are the specials. So a lot of these guys, the first one, of course, is Tim Morrison. If you haven't seen it, we presented him with a gaffy stick last year and he performed a haka to say thank you, and it was the greatest thing in my... Second of all, we would like to make you an honorary master of the Sons of Obi-Wan Saber Academy. You're joining Mr. Mark Ratz here and Stan Lee and a few others, because we wouldn't be here without you. So thank you. Pleasure.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you.
And last of all, you can't be a warrior without a weapon.
No way.
So we would like to give you one of our gaffy sticks.
Wow, thank you very much.
Full combat gaffy stick, squidgy ends so you can stab people when it doesn't hurt.
Stab people and it doesn't hurt them. Wow, look at that. Just step back a bit with that camera. Just step back a bit with that camera. Yeah. Sweet.
Awesome.
It was really amazing.
I had a rough childhood, and I think I've told this story before. had a rough childhood, and when I was at my angriest, I saw that movie and I thought, oh my God, if I keep going the way I'm going, that's where I'm going to end up. And that was my sliding doors moment. So I wouldn't have anything I have now without that movie. And as I said, like, he sort of knows who we are, and he recognises. It's not like we sit down and have drinks or anything.
No,
like, he recognises us from around the scene.
Right.
Like, I tend to stick out, 6'6" dude with a lightsaber walking stick covered in tattoos.
Yeah.
Gave it to him with honour. He received it with honour. Went straight out and did a haka with it. It was just...
It's just amazing.
Dude, all the kids at the temple, they go, what do you want to happen? I said, in my darkest heart of hearts, I'd love him to do a haka. And then he just did it. And all you can hear me in the background is just go, that was like phenomenal. And that it's just blown up again. We found another TikTok. It's got 1 million views on 2 weeks ago. It's had 30 million views now, because you know how I said it was 25. We found another 5 million views in the last couple of weeks.
Right.
When I went to Star Wars Celebration, I spoke, every single person I spoke to there, bar 2 people, had seen that video.
That's right.
Which is wild. I went on a deep dive, man. It's on every 501st forum, every nerd group. That's wild. I'm hoping to catch it. I don't think we'll catch him in Sydney because he's only there for one day, and he's going to get smashed. Like, he was, when we were in Melbourne, he wanted to come bring his son down to introduce us, but he was just too busy. He got smashed. So one day we'll catch up with him. Mr. Mark Ratz, bam, one of my most favourite humans on earth. I respect and love that man in ways I can't describe. Just, I love who he is as a person, and I can't believe, like, he's become a pretty cool mate. So that's one of those ones that 20-year-old me would just be freaking out over. Yes. Like, it's rad, man. I love Mark dearly. We were seeing Mark in Sydney as well. Yep. He's now our Grand Master of the Suns.
That's right. I met him that day.
Yes.
And he is a lovely person.
He's a truly beautiful human being.
And he is the master behind your
image. He did the image of me on the One Fat Teacher thing, and then, of course, that's his beautiful Blade Runner piece there.
Yeah.
If you come to the temple, like, half of the temple is Mark's work. I've got heaps of stuff, and I've got a heap of stuff upstairs that still has to be framed, but... Mark, if you see him at a con, go and chat to him. He's a beautiful human being. He comes across as a cranky, diplomatic, immunity Afrikaans dude, but he's a beautiful human being. Matty Doran.
Yes.
So Mouse from The Matrix, Death Stick dealer.
He's going to be the first guest.
Yes. So we're going to get Matty up after Sydney. We only met him the beginning of last year, but he really digs the touring thing. He tours with us. He's doing all the Supanovas with us. He's at our booth. Yeah. So we do a lot of regional cons, right? And the thing about regional cons is they're all put on by libraries and councils. So they're people that don't know the scene. And I've become like this touch point for anyone that wants an affordable guest for a con. You know, so Matty's doing a couple up in Queensland with us, and very cool dude. Yeah. Come down and meet him. If you come to a Nova, come and meet him. He was also Damien on Home and Away, and also he was the star of the last Budget Direct ad. You know, the one with the guy with the blower getting sucked up in the air. The guy that falls on the lounge at the end is Matty D. But he's been in, like, he was in The Thin Red Line, Terrence Malick's The Thin, and that movie had John Travolta and Woody Harrelson, because Terrence Malick's like a bit of a thing in Hollywood. He's a really famous director. What else has he's done? Heaps. But Matty's a good human being. He's lovely. He's absolutely become, like, he's part of our touring team. Yeah.
And for Star Wars fans, he's the Death Stick.
He's the Death Stick dealer, Like the Mouse, for me, like, Mouse is the big thing, because we were saying with Matty D, we're going to do 2 podcasts.
Yes.
The first podcast will just be us talking to Matty about his life and what he's done. Mm-hmm. And the second one, I want to do one on the Matrix, because Shawnee and I are both Matrix like sad Matrix fanatics.
There'll be lots to talk about, especially from his perspective.
Well, I thought it's good because we're both into the philosophy of the Matrix, and he lived it.
That's right.
I thought it'd be an interesting one to do.
I'd love to know how the revelation came for him at the time of the making.
Well, no, the fun thing to talk to him about is how it hit the zeitgeist, because they thought it was just going to be a little, indie film.
Well, it was. It was on a level. It still had a kind of real indie feel. Even that first episode.
It came out right when we were having the Y2K thing, and everyone was thinking about computers, and how much they dominate us, and it just hit. It's like Tiger King and lockdown. It was just right thing, right time. Right. It just hit everyone in the same way. Exactly. I love those, mate. It's one of the tattoos I've got to get. Ruth, my tattoo artist, is spewing. I want to get a run of the Matrix numbers, like running down. Have
you got the rabbit?
No, dude, I can't do the rabbit. That's got nothing to do with Neo. That's got to do with Ada Nicodemu. That was on her shoulder. Because I've already got a heap of, because I'm a massive Keanu Reeves fan. I've got what do we got? That's from Constantine. We've got Wild Stallions from Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. I'm getting a John Wick coin on my wrist. Like, I just love the dude. I love him so much. So yeah, Matty,
is that the Miyagi?
Yeah, that's the Miyagi headband. That was the first one I got before I got Mr. Miyagi on my leg. John Jarrett,
yes,
Uncle Mick from Wolf Creek. I'm hoping I'm going to have a chat to him and see if we can get him on the podcast too, because he's relatively local as well.
Yeah.
John, we made that short film with him. He really cool dude, like grumpy old man in the most beautiful sense. Like he's very John Jarrett.
Yeah.
But top dude, like he's a bit like us. He does all the Supanovas, so we see him at all the cons. He's a really lovely. If you're a fan, go and chat to him. He loves chatting to fans.
Yeah.
He loves it. Well, he does 6 Novas a year. He's like part of the furniture.
That's great.
Stephen Hunter, probably one of the last ones. He was Bomber in The Hobbit. He's done some touring with us as well. He's been up to the temple before as well. Again, like it's really. It's just, for me, the coolest thing is getting to know the people rather than the characters. Like, it's rad, dude. Like, it's my phone. It's got a really cool call list. Like,
that's right.
When we
contact list.
Yeah, when we first started, a mate of mine, Kez, we used to call him Ari Gold from Entourage because he had all the contacts. He turned around to me a couple of years ago and you're so Ari Gold now. I'm like, yeah. So it's fun. I mean, I don't know. Are there any questions? Any ideas? Any things?
It's amazing. I mean, I love hearing the stories. You always got some
random story of something weird I've done. Yeah,
connection to something when we're having chats.
Yeah,
especially to all these different celebs.
So if you take anything away from this, go to a con, meet a celeb. Yeah. It's fun, man. It's really
I'm gonna head down to the Sydney.
Yes, you're coming to do your first con ever, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. I never really get around to it.
It's good fun, man. Yeah. I think you'll enjoy it. I'll take you around, introduce you to a few people. You can go and say hi to Mark and yeah. It's gonna be it's cool. I mean, I know this is like it's a bit of a nothing podcast, but it's just
I don't know.
It
shows the scope and the range of how far you've sort of pushed the
reach. Well, what's funny, like, don't get me wrong, part of this is absolutely a business thing. Because number one, it's like a how can I explain it? It's like it's legitimacy.
Yes.
Like people are fascinated with celebs, and so we've got a wall called. We need to make the video of the temple and introduce people to the temple.
That's true.
Yeah, we really need to do that. So I've got a celeb wall at work with all the celebs and the autographs and the photos, and people walk in and they're just like, "Oh, damn!"
There's so many elements to the temple that are just awesome.
I love it.
Yeah. Especially the way you did the counter with the
lights
Empire.
from Bespin.
Empire lights.
No, they're the Bespin lights.
Oh, are they?
Yeah, the stairs in Bespin when Luke's fighting Vader with the red lights.
Yeah, that's right.
That's why they're red, because Imperial are white.
Yes.
Yeah, it's black and white.
Yes.
So yeah, I just thought there's some stories. Look, there's a lot of names I've skipped. I could do this. It's actually terrifying. I could do this for quite a while because I'm just.
You could do version 2 another day.
Yeah. I don't know, but it's just. I just thought it'd be cool. It's not.
Well, it'll be a great podcast later. Obviously, try and cut some of these in. during this discussion.
Go and have a look. If you go to our YouTube, I'm sharing links to our YouTube channel. That's where we're basing it. We've got to organise RSS feeds stuff to put it on. But if you go and look at our website, man, we've got a heap of our presentations on there. There's heaps of them. And it's just, if you're into nerdy stuff, it's pretty cool. It's cool seeing that, because people when they go to a con to meet a celebrity, they want to take the autograph. They want to take your energy. That's what I was going to point out, is that you've never been on the basis of what you want to get. You're giving. Yeah, well, and I love saying thank you. It's so brilliant. It's just saying, because all of these people, like 98,
that is saying thank you.
98% of the list have had an effect on my life, and people go, that's sad, but it's like, it's how many people are moved by book characters? Guys like, as I said, like Tem and like Carrie Ewells, man. I love The Princess Bride, and like Hot Shots, because I was a Top Gun fan. I love that. And Robin Hood, Men in Tights. Do you know that was Dave Chappelle's first? He's the black dude in that. That's Dave Chappelle. Yeah, right. Go back and watch it. I nearly fell over. I'd never realised it. And a video came up on Facebook, and I was like, oh, damn, it's Dave Chappelle. Like Chuck Norris, man. Like, they're people that formed who I am, and it's really cool just to be able to say thank you for getting me here. For me, for my childhood, it was like movies were an escape. They were the things that kept me sane. Like when I say these people have saved my life, they have, because when I've been absolutely bummed out and over it and been beaten and it sucks, being able to put on a movie and have someone's acting remove me from this world for a while so that I can enjoy it. Like who I want to meet. The list is pretty short now. Tom Cruise. Yeah. I love Tom Cruise. I'm a big Tom Cruise fan. I'm a huge Tom. I would. Yeah. That would be one I'd probably be a bit verklempt on, a bit like, because look, man. Oh my God.
He's an amazing actor,
dude. Everything he's done, like even Risky Business onwards.
Yes.
Taps. And then you go through, like, Last Samurai is
The Last Samurai
probably
is one
of my
best
top 3 movies of all time. Yeah. And I love him. It's got Billy Connolly in it as well. He's the sergeant.
That's right.
Ewan McGregor, I would love to one day. All I want is Ewan McGregor doing the Obi-Wan pose in our shirt with one of the sabers.
His saber.
But on the leather, I want to do the suppository from Trainspotting with him swimming through the toilet to get the suppository. Because being a Scot, he will just... Yes. Because when we do celeb ones, we always try and do...
something obscure.
Or something personal, personalised to them.
Yes.
But it's one of those, like... Michael Jai White he's made a show called Black Dynamite. If you ever see it, it's like old school 70s blaxploitation kung fu movie. It's phenomenal. We put that on. Who else? As I said, Elijah Wood. We put the Kevin. Sean Astin was one of the first sabers that we made ever, that we gave to him. I want to do one for him. If he ever comes out, I'm going to redo him one, because he gave that to his son. And I want to put the cave paintings on it from Encino Man. Yeah. Cool. Carrie Ewells had the Dread Pirate Roberts. As I said, Millie Bobby Brown had the House Organa logo. McTavish? I can't remember what we did for McTavish. I can't remember. I think that was before we were doing custom leather. Like Mark Ratz, we did. He's a massive Band of Brothers fan, so I did one of the patches from the 506th Parachute Infantry Regiment. Matt Doran, I actually just finished his, and that's the lady in red from the Matrix with the Matrix numbers running down it. Chuck Norris, we did the Walker Texas Ranger badge.
I was going to ask what his was.
Carl Urban's was Dread. Tom Welling, I did. He used to wear a necklace of the Superman logo in the show. That's what operated his ship. And then down in the corner, he's on plays Kane on Lucifer, and it's really cool. And so Kane's got a tattoo on his arm, and I just embossed the tattoo really subtly in the corner. He went, "Oh, it's Smallville." That's what's really cool. Like, just... You've given me that. Here's a little bit of that back to you. Who else? RJ Mitty, we did the Breaking Bad logo, but did it in Albrecht, like in the Star Wars writing. There's photos of a lot of these up there. I think they're all the main ones. Yeah, so
It's very cool.
It's cool, man.
It's cool.
It's fun.
It's very cool that there's a bunch of sabres out there that are in their hands.
Another one, what's his name? John Barrowman. So he was Merlin on Arrow. Oh, I see, like we've given a sabre to Stephen Amell from Arrow as well. John Barrowman's is funny because I love John Barrowman because he once said a quote at a con. Oh, what was it? Basically, it's saying don't give any credit to people that give you shit about being nerds because I'll have to the quote's on the video anyway, but it's just about don't be ashamed of being a nerd, and I think that's a really powerful thing. And we gave it to him when we gave him a 24-karat gold-plated one, and we went, we've made you a 24-karat gold-plated sabre, and he was just, no, and I'm like, yeah, man. And his husband was there, and he's like, check it out, I've got a 24-karat gold sabre. Like, you know, that's why I do it, because it's just because they don't. It's really funny because they don't expect it.
That's what I was going to say. None of them have ever expected anything.
And
like that.
I always make sure, like, because usually the people that I like their more obscure stuff.
Yes.
Than I like. I mean, you know, like, I hate Lord of the Rings, but as I said, Sean Astin and those guys like it. Sean Astin, he had a movie called Toy Soldiers that it came out after Goonies, because he was Mikey in Goonies with the asthma puffer, and I love that film. And Toy Soldiers was about a drug cartel taking over a military school, and they all fight back.
That's right.
And I said to him, like, Toy Soldiers, John Jarrett's a cracker, actually. So John, I helped put, when we were making the movie, when we were making Hero, I helped put the film together and get everything in place, but I didn't know anything about making movies, so I stepped back. So I just left John alone. And he did a movie called The Odd Angry Shot, and it's an Australian Vietnam film, and it's one of the great. Have you ever seen it?
No.
Oh my God, I'll lend it to you. It's got him, it's got Graham Kennedy, it's got James Blundell. Yeah, it's an absolute, like, did you see Danger Close, the one they made about Long Tan recently?
Yes. A friend of mine was involved on that.
Matt Doran was in that as well.
Okay.
So that was like the 2000s version of the cream of the Australian crop, because in there was who was in there? Lincoln Lewis, who we know, that's Wally Lewis's son, the footballer. He's an actor. He's in it. Matt Doran's in it. Travis Fimmell's in it. So this was the 70s version of that. And in the show, it's all about going away to Vietnam.
Yeah.
And John Jarrett's in it as well. And in the movie, because it's Vietnam, every day at 3 o'clock it rains. And being Australians, every time it starts raining, they go, oh, this effing rain, right? So I'd left John alone, and it rained the whole time we were filming the film, right? And I just walked up next to John, and I looked at him, and I went, Mr. Jarrett? And he goes, you're the sabre guy. And I went, yeah. And I went, oh, this fucking rain, eh? And he went, oh my God, no one's talked to me about that movie in 20 years. And I'm like, dude, like I've got it on DVD. I'm going to take it down and get him to autograph it for me. So yeah, it's just it's cool, man. It makes the nerd inside of me happy. Like, as I said, like, that's why I'm so pumped for this con, because I know I've met most of the guests that are there as well. So it'll just, you know, at first it's like, oh, there's someone famous, and now we walk down Vultures Row, like, you know, because Stephen Hunter's going to be there, and Kevin Eastman, who we've given a sabre to, is going to be there, and Tam's going to be there. So you're just walking like, hey, how's it going? Yeah. So, yeah, it's cool, man. If you take anything from this, come to a con.
Yes.
Cons are fun. If you're a nerd, I mean, I presume if you're listening to this, you are a nerd. Go and do a con, man. It's so wonderful being amongst your people, you know.
And make sure you come over and check you guys out.
Yeah. We're there. We'll be doing shows. I'm doing a panel with Matty Doran and Michael Kingmar, who was Tarful. Right. So I'm doing a panel with them, and we're doing shows, and we're doing a sabre presentation as well.
Yes.
I can never say his last name. His first name's Ian. He played Barristan Selmy in Game of Thrones. So, you know, Khaleesi, there was the guy that wanted the knight that wanted to shag her, and then there was the old school one that was her advisor.
Yep.
That was him, and he also played Jan Dodana in Rogue One.
Okay.
The old general with the beard that gave the briefing on how to destroy the Death Star.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we're doing one of him. I've got to do his custom leather tomorrow.
Nice.
But yeah, it's from where I came, it's pretty cool, man.
Yeah,
I like
and
it.
there's a long way to go still.
Man, there's a lot more celebs to meet.
That's right.
Ewan's the.
He's not the pinnacle, but it's.
He's for me. He's a train spotting. Dude, the island.
I know, that was a brilliant.
No, the island with him and
Yes.
Scarlett. That is a
I've been meaning
phenomenal.
to watch that again.
Oh,
recently.
dude, it holds up. It's
Yeah.
such a good film. I fell in love with train
Yeah.
spotting because my mum ran Blacktown Methadone unit, so I knew that whole scene very like I saw all the people my mother used to treat up on screen, but they had Scottish accents. You know.
Yeah.
You and I'd love. Who else? I don't know. I think I've met most of the people. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm happy to meet anyone, but maybe George Lucas would be cool.
That'd be very cool.
Yeah, I reckon I can't think of anyone else off the top of my head. I think, because I met Van Damme would be cool to me.
Yeah.
I would love to have met Steven Seagal,
Yep.
but he's off the rails now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think they're the main ones. Like, I've been pretty lucky. I've gotten to tick.
You've ticked a lot of
I've
boxes.
ticked a lot of them off. Like, God bless the team at Supanova for bringing out phenomenal guests. You know, like, well, because like even it's interesting because with the guests, like for the last 10, 15 years, they've generally been the older guests because it's quite expensive to get them out. And like I've been told some of the prices that need to be paid to get a celeb out, and it makes my eyes water. Like everyone complains about, it's expensive to get autographs. The Supernova's not gouging you. Like I'll tell you a couple about off mic. It's eye-wateringly huge. So, but a lot of the older guys were my guys that I watched, like your Richard Dean Andersons and Chuck Norris and stuff. And it's really interesting now because the younger ones are coming through. Like I used to know everyone at Supanova. Now I'm a bit like, know them. So all the fresh crops coming through.
Yep.
Yeah, I guess that's it. Anything else?
It's very good. There's always going to be more.
Oh, dude!
And a version 2 would be great.
Yeah.
Because you'll revise this later, and we'll realise, oh my god, there's so many missing.
Yeah, dude, it's. I spent about an hour at work, like just. I had to sit in front of the celeb wall for 20 minutes, and then like these heaps, like another one of my favourites. Oh my god, I'm having a brain fart. Andrew Jacks is his name. Second con we'd ever done it was an Oz Comic Con, and in Star Wars he plays one of the Major Derlin, I think his name is. In Episode 8, the old general that looks out over the battlefield with the red and white at the beginning of the thing. He's just got these little. He turns up once in every scene as like a general in each movie, and we went over to him and said, "Oh, you're in Star Wars, have a shirt." And no one knew who he was, so he got bored and came and hung at our booth all weekend.
Nice.
And we're like, so he's an old English thespian. We're like, how did you end up in Star Wars? And he's like, JJ thought it'd be funny. And I'm like, right, okay, so how do you know JJ? World's best dialect coach. He did, if you've heard an accent, he worked on Last Samurai, Lord of the Rings, Star Wars, Gangs of New York, Last of the Mohicans. He's worked on everything. He was the world's best dialect coach.
Okay.
And he hung at our booth all weekend, and then at the end of it, he goes, I want to buy a T-shirt. I said, we'll give you a T-shirt. And he goes, no, I want to buy one because no one ever buys Chris anything. We're like, Chris who? And he goes, Chris Hemsworth, because he did the Thor accent. He taught the Thor accent to him. He was working with him. That's why he was in Australia. He was working with him up on the Gold Coast when they were, I think it was Ragnarok they were filming. Mm-hmm. And so when we met Hemsworth, we walked up to him and he looked at the shirt and he goes, I've got one of those shirts. And I'm like, Mr. Jacks sends his regards. Andrew Jacks was one of the first celebrities in England to die of COVID, and the photo of us with him was up at his funeral. His wife sent me a photo. That's cool. Brian Herring, who was a puppeteer for BB-8, lovely dude. I caught up with him over at Celebration. You know, like he gave me an official Lucasfilm challenge coin, which if you don't know what a challenge coin is, you'll find out. We do them. It's a thing. And when you're sitting there with the 501st with all the Star Wars nerds and they pull their coins out, it's just like big junk in a locker room. You just walk in and just go drop, and they go, "Is that what it is?" And I'm like, "Pick it up and feel it, son." Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's cool, man. Like I'm really blessed. Like everything's. We're talking about creating your reality. This is the reality I've created, where I move in these circles, and it's rad, dude. It's so much fun.
It's manifesting.
Yeah, and as I said, it's very much a business thing, and it gives us credibility and that sort of stuff, and it's also it's networking.
Yep.
Because all of these celebs do all of the same circuits as well, so it's got a selfish element as well, but it makes the nerd in me happy.
Well, you definitely don't nerd out when you do it. Like you're very composed.
Do internally, like I met
of course,
Deborah Ann Wall. So did you ever watch True Blood?
Not.
She was Jessica.
That was the vampire series.
She was Jessica in True Blood, and she was Karen Page in Daredevil, redheaded chick. She's a strawberry blonde in that.
Yep.
Like meeting her, I loved her in a carnal way in True Blood. Like, I loved her. So, like, redhead, white skin, southern accent. I just loved it. And when I walked up to her, I just walked up next to her and I looked her in the eye and I just went, "I loved you in True Blood." And as I turned around, she did the Jessica snarl for the photo. I got the photo. It was a bit like, another one, Melbourne, just before the pandemic. Actually, I've got two more to tell you. What's the name of the chick that plays Marjorie Tyrell in Game of Thrones? Natalie. She's the girl that kisses Captain America in the first Captain America. What's her name? Natalie. I can't.
Oh, I know that.
Do you know who I'm talking about?
I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, her. We're just walking past her. Like, I was walking in the back area and she just walked past me and I went, "Love your work," and she went, "I love yours," and I went, "Oh, I love you." That was cool. Katie Sackhoff is another one.
Of course.
Yes, I'm a 2%.
That was supposed to have happened.
Yeah, she had to cancel. I'm hoping it happens later this year.
That's right.
Love her. I've loved her since Battlestar. I love her big time. So that'll
and
be cool.
Her star is really on the rise. With
Mandalorian. Alyssa Milano is going to be. Oh, Christina Ricci was there, and I got to see her. That was pretty cool because I loved her as Wednesday. Like I had a crush on Christina Ricci for years. Have you ever seen a movie called Black Snake Moan with Samuel L. Jackson?
No.
We need to talk about that off screen.
That's an early.
No, it's probably early 2000s.
Okay.
And it's weird. I can't even describe.
Not Anaconda era. Snakes on a Plane era.
No. Samuel L. Jackson basically kidnaps her and chains her to a water heater, and it's just weird. It's such a great film.
Right.
Alyssa Milano is going to be in Sydney. I just want to eyeball her because I was a big Who's the Boss fan when I was a kid. We've met Shannon Doherty from 90210.
Yes.
That was lovely. We it was the first year we'd made Sabres. There's a video of her. Sean Astin. And Stefan Kapicic. That's the one I'll finish on. Trying to break one of our sabres. Stefan Kapicic. He's the voice of Colossus in Deadpool.
Yes, that's right.
And he's this big. He's Serbian. I'm pretty sure he's Serbian. Big booming voice. Met him in 2016. And he tried to break the sabre and stuff. And I got a photo autograph, but I couldn't afford a photo. And he was back in 2019. And I thought, I'll go and get a photo to match it. And I walk in, and when I meet a celeb, I always like to go last because sometimes you can have a little chitty chat before they head off. And so I'm standing there, and he turns around and he goes, "Oh, it's Luke from the Suns." I'm like, "What up, dude? How's it going?" And he got the photo, and he goes, awesome. Come and see me at the table, and we'll have a chat. And went no stress. And my daughter's a massive Deadpool. She loved Deadpool too. I showed her the. There's two versions. There's a violent version, and there's one called Once Upon a Deadpool. Have you ever seen that one where they base it around the Princess Bride? He kidnaps, he kidnaps Fred Savage and recreates the Princess Bride so that whenever there's bloody bits, they cut away to them talking, and that's how they get the PG rating.
Yes.
And my daughter's a dancer with Nikki Webster, and she was offered a She was offered an Eisteddfod somewhere. And I said, "My daughter's so disappointed." And he goes, Why are you disappointing your daughter?" And I said, "Oh, no, she's a dancer and she had to dance and she really wanted to meet you." And he goes, "We can't have this. Give me your phone." And I set it up.
And
then he does this video, Halia, this is Colossus. Breakfast is the most important meal of the day. Dad says your dancing's going well. So it's one of those things that she's at a dance concert and I send it to her. And so imagine as a kid sitting at a dance concert and Colossus is wishing her like,
that's awesome.
That's rad, man. Like I've got to she's gotten to meet a few people like the Weasley twins. She was stoked about. We met Jason Isaacs, so he plays Malfoy's dad, but he is the English baddie and everything. He's the English baddie in The Patriot with Mel Gibson. He's in Event Horizon. He's the voice of the Grand Inquisitor on Rebels. He was just on the. Have you ever seen a TV show called The Great? It's about Catherine the Great. It's phenomenal. It's got Nicholas Hoult in it, who was Nux in Mad Max. The main war boy. He was the little boy in About a Boy as well. And he plays Beast in the X-Men movies as well.
Okay. Does he play the engineer in Event Horizon?
Oscar Isaacs, yes. And he's also in Black Hawk Down. He's phenomenal. But when we're getting the photo with him, the other chick with him was Queenie, who is one of the characters from the new Fantastic Beasts movie. Daughter lost it over that. So every now and then, if there's, because her nerd's a different nerd. She's into, what is she into? She's musical. She's a musical theatre kid, and she's just gotten into South Park. So they're just training her right. But I reckon that'll do it. We've been chatting for a while.
Yes.
What's yours?
One of my favourites that I would love to meet is Natalie Portman.
I nearly said her, man.
Oh, my God.
But why? What film?
Well, there's so much. Obviously,
Star Wars.
I'm a huge fan of her in Star Wars, which is just amazing because a lot of people overlook her in that, even though I think she was one of the most brilliant portrayals.
And the whole time she was doing that, she was doing her psych degree at Harvard.
She's an amazing person.
The Professional. Have you ever? I like where she plays like a 14-year-old girl who's training to be a hitman. I love that movie. I love that movie so much. Like Scarlett Johansson's my celebrity pass. Right. When I DJ, I've got 2 CD players, and I always give them different names. So if one stuffs up, I know which one's which, and they were always Natalie and Scarlett. So, all right, we'll wrap it up there. Right. So that was fun. Thanks, brother.
That's brilliant.
All right, we'll work on a serious one next week. I'll still have to work out. I don't know. Any ideas from you?
Oh, well, sure, we'll come up with something.
We'll work it out. All right, well, thanks, guys. Rock on.
It was another fun podcast.
We're getting there slowly but surely. Have a good one, brother. See you next week.
See you, mate.
Cheers, guys. Bye.